The afternoon sun filtered through the tall windows of Grace Community Church in Phoenix, casting long shadows across the rows of folding chairs. Joyce Powell sat in the third row, her hands folded over the worn leather purse in her lap, the same purse David had given her 20 years ago, back when money was tighter and gifts meant more. Inside that purse, tucked behind grocery receipts and Emma's latest crayon drawing, was a photograph. David at 58, silver threading through his dark hair, that crooked smile that had always made her feel like the only woman in the room. 4 years gone now. Sometimes it felt like yesterday. Sometimes it felt like a lifetime. But today wasn't about grief. Today was about pride. Rebecca Marie Powell. The name echoed through the sanctuary, and Joyce's breath caught. Her daughter, their daughter, walked across the stage in cap and gown, accepting her diploma with a firm handshake. Marketing degree. GPA 3.6. A job offer already waiting at a local firm. The small crowd erupted in applause. Someone behind Joyce shouted, "That's my girl!" She recognized the voice, Ruth Martinez, her best friend of 30 years, who understood better than anyone what this moment meant. Rebecca's eyes scanned the audience until they found Joyce. She smiled, wide, genuine, victorious. Joyce smiled back, her throat too tight for anything else. David should be here, she thought. He should see this. The memory came unbidden. Rebecca at 8 years old, sitting at the kitchen table, carefully writing out her spelling words. David leaning over her shoulder, patient and proud. "That's my smart girl," he'd said. "You can do anything you set your mind to." And she had. Despite everything, despite losing her father's senior year of college, despite the grief that had nearly derailed her, Rebecca had finished. She'd made it. After the ceremony, Joyce stood beside her daughter on the church lawn, posing for photos that Ruth insisted on taking. Rebecca towered over her at 5'8" in heels, but Joyce still saw that 8-year-old girl in her face, the way her nose crinkled when she laughed, the small scar on her chin from falling off her bike at 10. "You proud of me, Mom?" Rebecca asked softly during a break between photos. "More than words can say, sweetheart." If Joyce had known then what was coming, the fractures already forming beneath the surface of her daughter's smile, would she have held her tighter? Would she have asked different questions? But she didn't know. So she smiled for the camera and told herself that the hard part was over. Her daughter was launched. Successful. Independent. She told herself she'd done her job. The call came on a Tuesday evening in March, 2 years after graduation. Joyce was in her garden, deadheading roses in the cooling desert air, when her phone buzzed. Rebecca's name lit up the screen, and something in Joyce's chest tightened. Her daughter didn't usually call on weeknights. She was too busy with work, with Jonathan, with their new life together. "Mom," Rebecca's voice sounded strange, tight. "Do you have a minute to talk?" "Of course, honey. What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong exactly. Jonathan and I need to talk to you about something. Can we come over?" They arrived 30 minutes later. Jonathan Powell, tall, clean-cut, with the kind of careful politeness that always made Joyce feel like she was being assessed, carried a folder under his arm. Rebecca's hand rested protectively over her still flat stomach. 3 months pregnant. They'd told Joyce 2 weeks ago. She'd cried happy tears and immediately started researching cribs. They sat in her living room, and Jonathan opened the folder with the methodical precision of someone who'd rehearsed this moment. "Joyce, I want to be completely transparent with you," he began. "Rebecca and I have been looking at houses. With the baby coming, we need more space than our apartment can provide." "That's wonderful," Joyce said, meaning it. "Have you found something?" "We have." He pulled out a listing. A 3-bedroom ranch in a good school district. $285,000. "But there's a complication. Our credit isn't quite where it needs to be for the down payment the bank wants. We're short about $15,000. The number hung in the air. Rebecca leaned forward, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Mom, I hate asking. I hate it. But we don't have anyone else. Jonathan's parents are helping with some of the closing costs, but they can't cover everything. And I want our baby to have a real home, a safe place. Something in Joyce's chest cracked open. She thought of David, of the promises they'd made to each other. Take care of our girl. Make sure she never struggles like we did. How much do you need? Joyce heard herself ask. 15,000, Jonathan repeated. We'd pay you back, $500 a month until it's clear. I have it all worked out. He showed her a payment plan, typed and printed, numbers in neat columns. Joyce thought about her savings account, the money from David's life insurance that she'd been carefully managing. She'd been planning to use some of it for a trip to visit her sister in Vermont, maybe update the kitchen. But this was Rebecca. This was her grandchild. You don't have to pay me back, she said. Mom, Rebecca started. I mean it. This is a gift. For the baby. For you both. Joyce stood, already heading toward her desk. Let me write you a check. When they left that night, Rebecca hugged her so tightly Joyce could barely breathe. Thank you, Mom. Thank you so much. I promise we won't take advantage. This is it. Just this one time. Joyce stood on her porch, watching their taillights disappear down the street, and felt something she hadn't felt since David died. Needed. Useful. Like she still had a purpose. 6 months later, Jonathan lost 20% of his salary in company-wide budget cuts. 6 months after that, Rebecca called again. The house payment was manageable, but only barely. With a newborn, Emma, perfect and beautiful, and Rebecca cutting back to part-time, they were drowning. Just for 6 months, Jonathan said, sitting in Joyce's living room again, this time with less polish and more desperation. Just until I can get a raise or Rebecca can go back full-time. How much? Joyce asked. $1,800 a month, just the rent. We can cover everything else. Joyce thought about her budget. She could do it. It would be tight, but she could do it. Okay, she said. Really? Rebecca looked stunned. Mom, are you sure? You're my daughter. Emma's my granddaughter. Family takes care of family. What Joyce didn't say, what she couldn't quite articulate even to herself, was how good it felt. To be needed again. To have a role that mattered. Since David died, the days had been long and formless. Teaching had given her purpose, but she'd retired the year before. Now they were just empty hours in a too-quiet house. But this, helping Rebecca, being essential to her daughter's stability, this filled the void. So she paid the rent. Month after month, $1,800, transferred like clockwork on the first of every month. And then there were the emergencies. Emma needed a new car seat, $400. The water heater broke, $800. Jonathan's car needed transmission work, $1,200. Rebecca called, voice strained and apologetic, and Joyce transferred the money, always with the same assurance. We'll pay you back, Mom. But they never did, and Joyce never asked. By the time Mason was born, 2 years after Emma, Joyce had given them $68,000. She knew the exact number because she'd checked her accounts one sleepless night, adding up the transfers, the checks, the Venmo payments. $68,000 in 2.5 years. Ruth had noticed, of course. Ruth noticed everything. Joyce, honey, I need to ask you something, Ruth said over coffee one Saturday morning. Are you okay, financially? I'm fine. Why? Because you've been talking about fixing your roof for a year, but you haven't done it. You're driving a car that's older than some of my students, and last week you told me you couldn't afford the trip to Vermont. I'm being careful with money. Ruth set down her coffee cup, her dark eyes serious. But you're giving it to Rebecca. She needs it. They're struggling. They're adults, Joyce, with jobs. They should be able to figure it out. You don't understand. It's different when it's your child. Ruth was quiet for a moment. Then, I do understand. I also understand that there's a difference between helping and enabling, between supporting and being taken advantage of. Rebecca would never, I'm not saying she's doing it on purpose, but honey, when was the last time she invited you over? When was the last time you saw those kids? Joyce opened her mouth to answer and realized she couldn't remember. September arrived with cooler temperatures and a growing unease in Joyce's chest that she couldn't quite name. She'd called Rebecca 6 times that week. 4 calls went to voicemail. 2 were answered with rushed conversations that lasted less than 3 minutes. "Mom, I can't talk right now. Emma's having a meltdown." "Mom, can I call you back? Jonathan needs something." "Mom, I'm so sorry, but I have a meeting in 5 minutes." The callbacks never came. Joyce told herself Rebecca was busy. Young mothers were always busy. She remembered those days, the exhaustion, the endless demands, the feeling that you couldn't even go to the bathroom alone. But a small voice in the back of her mind whispered, "You're being avoided." On a Wednesday afternoon, Joyce drove to Rebecca's house unannounced. She'd baked cookies, Emma's favorite, chocolate chip with extra chips, and thought maybe a surprise visit would be nice. Rebecca answered the door in yoga pants and an oversized t-shirt, her hair in a messy bun. Behind her, the house looked lived in, but not dirty. Toys scattered across the floor, dishes in the sink, the normal chaos of family life. "Mom?" Rebecca's voice held surprise, but not pleasure. "What are you doing here?" "I brought cookies for the kids. I thought maybe we could. This really isn't a good time. Mason's napping and Emma has a play date in an hour. I need to get her ready." Joyce held out the container. "Oh, well, I can just leave these. Thanks." Rebecca took the cookies, but didn't invite Joyce inside. "Mom, I appreciate it, but next time, can you call first? It makes things easier." "Of course, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to intrude." "You're not intruding, it's just—" Rebecca trailed off, and for a moment something flickered across her face. Not anger, something softer, sadder. "I'll call you later, okay?" The door closed. Not slammed, just closed. Joyce stood on the porch for a moment, her hands empty, her chest tight. She drove home and cried in her driveway for 10 minutes before going inside. October brought Thanksgiving plans. "Mom, I need to tell you something," Rebecca said over the phone. Her voice had that careful tone, the one people use when delivering bad news they're trying to soften. "Jonathan and I talked, and we're doing Thanksgiving with his family this year." "Oh." Joyce's kitchen suddenly felt very cold. "What about—" "I thought we always did Thanksgiving together." "I know, but his mom hasn't been well, and his dad really wants everyone together. It's important to them." "I understand," Joyce said, even though she didn't. "Maybe I could come too. I wouldn't mind. It's kind of a his family-only thing. You know how it is." Joyce didn't know how it was. She'd never been excluded from a family holiday before. "What about the day after?" she tried. "I could do a second Thanksgiving, just us. You, Jonathan, the kids." "Mom, honestly, we're just going to be exhausted. Can we do Christmas instead? Big family Christmas, I promise." "Of course," Joyce said. "Christmas sounds perfect." She ate Thanksgiving dinner alone, a lean cuisine turkey meal in front of the TV, and told herself it was fine. Families needed to establish their own traditions. Rebecca was building a life with Jonathan. That was healthy, normal. But when Ruth called that evening, Joyce couldn't keep the tears out of her voice. "She doesn't want me around," Joyce whispered. "I don't know what I did wrong." "You didn't do anything wrong, honey. Sometimes kids need space." "But I gave her space. I'm not overbearing. I only call once a day. I don't drop by unannounced anymore." "Once a day is still a lot, Joyce." "But she's my daughter. Who else am I supposed to call?" The silence on the line spoke volumes. December 15th started as an ordinary Tuesday. Joyce had spent the morning decorating for Christmas. A small tree in the corner, lights around the windows, stockings hung for Rebecca, Jonathan, Emma, and Mason. She'd bought presents weeks ago and wrapped them carefully, labeling each one in her neat handwriting. She'd planned the menu for Christmas dinner: honey-baked ham, sweet potato casserole, green beans, her famous dinner rolls. She'd even bought a new tablecloth. Everything was ready. She just needed to confirm the time with Rebecca. She called at 2:00 p.m. Rebecca answered on the 4th ring. "Hey, Mom, what's up?" "Hi, sweetheart. I just wanted to confirm Christmas. What time should I come over? I was thinking early afternoon so I can help with cooking. Mom, about that. Rebecca's voice shifted. I need to talk to you about Christmas. Something in her tone made Joyce sit down. Okay. Jonathan and I have been talking, and we've decided we need Christmas to be just us this year. Just our family. Me, him, and the kids. The words didn't make sense at first. Joyce heard them, but they seemed to be in the wrong order. I'm sorry, what? We need space, Mom. We need time as our own family unit. Without, Rebecca paused. Without extended family. Extended family? Joyce's voice came out sharper than she intended. Rebecca, I'm your mother. I know you are, but we have to set boundaries. For our mental health. For our marriage. Did something happen? Did I do something wrong? It's not about you, Mom. It's about us. We need this. Joyce's mind raced. She thought about the $68,000, the monthly rent payments, the emergency transfers, 2.5 years of being the safety net, the solution, the bank. And Jonathan, Rebecca continued, her voice growing defensive, he really needs a stress-free holiday. Work has been hard on him. Having people over, even family, it's just too much right now. People over? Joyce's voice broke. Rebecca, I'm not people. I'm your mother. I'm Emma and Mason's grandmother. Mom, please don't make this harder than it already is. How long have you been planning this? That's not fair. How long? Joyce demanded. When did you decide I wasn't welcome at Christmas? Last week? Last month? Was it before or after I paid this month's rent? Silence. Mom, that's not what? That's not related. You're cutting me out of Christmas, but my money is still good enough? You offered to help with the rent, Rebecca said, her voice cold now. We never asked you to. You did ask. You asked and I gave because you're my daughter and I love you. Then give without conditions, Rebecca shot back. Don't use money to guilt me into doing what you want. The accusation hit like a slap. I have never, Joyce started, but her voice failed. I have to go, Rebecca said. The kids need me. I'm sorry you're upset, but the decision is made. We'll see you after Christmas. Maybe New Year's. The line went dead. Joyce sat in her kitchen, phone still pressed to her ear, listening to silence. The Christmas tree lights blinked cheerfully in the corner. Presents sat beneath it, wrapped in red and gold paper, each one chosen with care, for people who didn't want her there. Slowly, Joyce stood and walked to her desk. She pulled out her financial records, 2.5 years of bank statements, and spread them across the kitchen table. Every transfer, every check, every emergency, $68,000, plus the down payment, plus birthday gifts, plus Easter baskets and Halloween costumes and the time she'd bought Emma a bike and Mason a play kitchen. $88,000, maybe more, for a family that couldn't spare one day at Christmas. Joyce stared at the numbers until they blurred. Then she picked up her phone and made a call. Grace Property Management? Yes, this is Joyce Powell. I need to terminate the lease on 2847 Maple Drive. Effective with 30-day notice. Yes, I'm sure. Thank you. She hung up and sat very still. Somewhere in the house, the Christmas tree timer clicked off, plunging the room into darkness. And Joyce Powell, widow, mother, grandmother, retired teacher, realized she had been invisible all along. The money was all they'd ever seen. Christmas morning arrived cold and bright. Joyce woke at 5:00 a.m., not because she meant to, but because sleep had become impossible somewhere around 3:00 a.m., when the full weight of what she'd done finally hit her. She'd canceled the lease. In 30 days, Rebecca and Jonathan would receive notice that their housing arrangement was terminated. They'd have to find a new place, come up with first and last month's rent, security deposit, moving costs, all while managing 2 young children and whatever financial crisis had made them dependent on her in the first place. Joyce sat at her kitchen table with coffee she couldn't taste, staring at her phone. No calls, no texts, nothing from Rebecca wishing her Merry Christmas. What have I done? The doubt crept in like cold water. Was she punishing her daughter? Was she punishing Emma and Mason, innocent children who didn't ask to be caught in this mess? Or was she finally, after 65 years of putting everyone else first, standing up for herself? At 9:00 a.m., Ruth appeared at her door with a breakfast casserole and a bottle of wine. "Nobody should be alone on Christmas," Ruth said, pushing past Joyce into the kitchen. "Especially not my best friend." They sat at the table and Joyce told her everything. The phone call, the exclusion, the canceled lease. Ruth listened without interrupting, her face carefully neutral. "Say it," Joyce finally said. "Tell me I overreacted." "Did you overreact?" Ruth stirred her coffee slowly. "Or did you react appropriately to being used?" "She's my daughter." "And you're her mother, not her ATM, not her backup plan." Ruth looked at Joyce with those dark, knowing eyes. "Honey, I love you. You know I do. But I have to ask, did you give Rebecca that money to help her? Or did you give it to keep her needing you?" The question landed like a punch. "That's not fair," Joyce whispered. "Isn't it?" Ruth's voice was gentle but firm. "After David died, you were lost. I watched you struggle to figure out who Joyce Powell was without being David's wife. And then Rebecca needed help, and suddenly you had purpose again. You had a role." "I was just being a good mother." "No, sweetheart. You were being a necessary mother. There's a difference." Ruth reached across the table and took Joyce's hand. "Good mothers teach their kids to stand on their own. Necessary mothers make sure their kids can't." Joyce pulled her hand away. "So I'm the bad guy now? For helping my own child?" "You're not the bad guy. Neither is Rebecca. You're both just—" Ruth paused, searching for words. "You're both doing the best you can with broken pieces. But Joyce, answer me honestly. If Rebecca didn't need your money, would she still want you in her life?" The silence stretched between them. Joyce didn't answer because she couldn't, because the answer terrified her. "I don't know who I am without being someone's something," Joyce finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "David's wife, Rebecca's mother, Emma and Mason's grandmother. Take all that away. And what's left?" "Joyce Powell," Ruth said simply. Smart, funny, talented Joyce Powell, who taught 3rd grade for 35 years, who makes the best lemon bars in Arizona, who once drove 4 hours in the middle of the night to pick me up when my car broke down. That Joyce. She's still in there. You just have to remember her. The first text came at 4:47 p.m. Joyce's phone buzzed on the coffee table where she and Ruth were halfway through It's a Wonderful Life. The irony not lost on either of them. Rebecca. "Mom, what did you do?" Joyce stared at the screen. Her hand started shaking. Rebecca. "The property management company just called Rebecca. You canceled our lease?" Rebecca. "We have 30 days to move, Rebecca. With 2 kids?" Rebecca. "Before New Year's?" Rebecca. "How could you do this to us?" Ruth looked at the phone, then at Joyce. "You don't have to respond right now." But the messages kept coming. Rebecca. "I know you're reading these, Rebecca. At least have the decency to answer." Rebecca. "This is unbelievably cruel, Rebecca. You're punishing Emma and Mason because your feelings got hurt." That last one nearly broke Joyce's resolve. She reached for her phone, but Ruth gently took it from her hands. "Not tonight," Ruth said firmly. "Tonight you sit with your decision. Make sure it's what you really want. Because once you engage, once you respond, the door is open again." Joyce nodded, tears streaming down her face. They didn't finish the movie. December 26th brought voicemails. The first was from Rebecca, her voice thick with tears. "Mom, please, we need to talk about this. You can't just... Please call me back, please." The second was from Jonathan. His voice was controlled, measured, the voice of someone barely holding on to their temper. "Joyce, this is incredibly irresponsible. We have children. You can't just pull the rug out from under us because Rebecca wanted one holiday without extended family interference. This is childish and vindictive, and frankly, I expected better from you. Call us back so we can discuss this like adults." Extended family interference. The words stung more than they should have. Joyce listened to the voicemail 3 times, and each time her resolve hardened a little more. December 27th brought a knock at the door. Joyce looked through the peephole and saw Rebecca's car in the driveway. Her daughter stood on the porch, arms wrapped around herself against the December chill. Alone. Joyce opened the door but kept the security chain engaged. "Rebecca." "Mom." Rebecca's eyes were red and swollen. "Please, can we talk? Face to face?" "I don't think that's a good idea right now." "Mom, I'm begging you. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." Something in her daughter's voice, the desperation, the exhaustion, made Joyce hesitate. She closed the door, unhooked the chain, and opened it again. Rebecca stepped inside, and they stood in the entryway like strangers. "Why?" Rebecca asked. "Just tell me why." "You know why." "Because of Christmas? Because I asked for one holiday as just my family?" "It's not about Christmas," Joyce said quietly. "It's about the fact that I've given you $88,000 over 2.5 years, and apparently that doesn't buy me a seat at the table." Rebecca flinched. "That's not fair. You gave that money freely. You said it was a gift. You can't hold it over my head now." "I'm not holding it over your head. I'm simply not giving any more." "But you're not just cutting off the money. You're evicting us." "I'm terminating a lease that's in my name. A lease you promised was temporary." "That was 2.5 years ago, Rebecca." Rebecca's composure cracked. "We can't afford anywhere else. Do you understand that? Jonathan's salary barely covers our bills. I'm part-time because childcare costs more than I'd make full-time. We're drowning, Mom, and you're pushing us under." "Then maybe you should have thought about that before you told me I wasn't welcome for Christmas." The words came out harsher than Joyce intended, but she didn't take them back. Rebecca stared at her mother, and something shifted in her expression. The pleading disappeared, replaced by something harder, angrier. "You want to know the truth?" Rebecca's voice shook. "Fine, here's the truth. You suffocate me, Mom. Every single day. You call constantly. You show up unannounced. You give advice I didn't ask for. You compare me to yourself. When I was raising you this, and when I was your age that. You make me feel like I'm never good enough, like I'm always failing." Joyce took a step back. "That's not... I never meant..." "It doesn't matter what you meant. It's what you did." Rebecca was crying now, words pouring out like they'd been dammed up for years. "I can't breathe around you. I can't be my own person. I can't make my own mistakes. And yes, I took your money. I took it because I needed it. And I took it because some sick part of me thought maybe if I let you help enough, you'd finally be satisfied. You'd finally feel like you'd done enough and you could let me go. I was trying to help you. You were trying to keep me dependent on you. Because if I don't need you, then what's your purpose, right? That's what this is really about. Not me. You." The accusation hung between them like smoke. "Get out," Joyce said quietly. "Mom?" "Get out of my house, Rebecca." Rebecca grabbed her purse with shaking hands and walked to the door. She turned back once, her face blotchy and tear-stained. "I'm sorry you lost Dad," she said. "I'm sorry you're lonely, but I can't be your reason to live. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to my family, and it's destroying both of us." The door closed. Joyce stood in her entryway for a long time, her daughter's words echoing in the empty house. "You suffocate me. I can't breathe around you. It's destroying both of us." Was Rebecca right? Had Joyce been using her daughter to fill the David-shaped hole in her life? Or was Rebecca just deflecting, justifying taking money while giving nothing back? Joyce didn't know any more. December 28th began with Ruth at the door again, this time holding an envelope. "This got delivered to my house by mistake," Ruth said, handing it over. "It's addressed to Rebecca Powell, care of your address." Joyce looked at the return address, Desert Hope Counseling Center. "You shouldn't open that," Ruth said, but her tone suggested she knew Joyce would anyway. Inside was a billing statement. 8 months of weekly therapy sessions, $150 per session, insurance covering half. Rebecca had been in therapy since April. April. 7 months before the Christmas exclusion. 7 months of sessions that Joyce knew nothing about. The statement included diagnostic codes. Joyce Googled them. Postpartum depression, moderate to severe generalized anxiety disorder, adjustment disorder with mixed anxiety and depressed mood. There were therapy notes partially visible through the envelope window. Patient reports feeling overwhelmed by family expectations. Struggles with maternal guilt and feelings of inadequacy. Difficulty setting boundaries with mother. Joyce sat down hard on her couch. Her daughter had been suffering. Seriously suffering. And Joyce hadn't known. Or had she not wanted to know? Had she been so focused on being needed that she'd missed Rebecca actually needing help? "Oh, God," Joyce whispered. "What have I done?" Ruth sat beside her. "You didn't know." "I should have known. I'm her mother. How did I not see?" "Because she didn't want you to see. And honey, you have to ask yourself, why? Why didn't Rebecca feel like she could tell you she was struggling?" The answer was in Rebecca's words from yesterday. "You suffocate me. You make me feel like I'm never good enough." If Rebecca had told Joyce about the depression, the anxiety, Joyce would have swooped in. She would have taken over. She would have fixed it. And Rebecca would have disappeared completely under the weight of Joyce's helping. "She needed space to figure out how to be a mother," Joyce said slowly, understanding dawning. "And I kept crowding her, kept offering solutions, kept showing her all the ways I did it better." "You were trying to help," Ruth said gently. "But that's not what she needed." Joyce looked at the billing statement again, seeing it differently now. She needed to struggle, to figure it out on her own, to fail and survive the failure, and I wouldn't let her. "So what are you going to do?" Joyce didn't answer, because she honestly didn't know. December 30th, 7:00 p.m. The knock on the door was firm but not aggressive. Joyce knew who it would be before she looked through the peephole. Rebecca and Jonathan stood on her porch, but they looked different than they had 4 days ago. Rebecca's eyes were still red, but there was a set to her jaw, determination mixed with exhaustion. Jonathan looked worse. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair uncombed, the careful polish completely gone. Joyce opened the door and stepped aside to let them in. They stood in her living room, the same living room where they'd asked for the down payment 3 years ago. Everything had changed. Nothing had changed. "Joyce," Jonathan spoke first. His voice wasn't angry. It was just tired. "We need to talk. Really talk. No yelling, no accusations. Just truth." Joyce nodded and sat down. They sat across from her. "I'll go first," Jonathan said, "because I owe you an explanation. Several explanations, actually." He took a breath, and Joyce saw his hands trembling. "My mother has stage 3 lung cancer." The words hit like a physical blow. "We found out 2 years ago. She doesn't have insurance. My father's business went under right before she got sick. Her treatment costs $3,000 a month. Every month. Chemo, radiation, medications, doctor visits. My father can't work. He's taking care of her full time. My siblings can't help. They have their own struggles. So it falls to me." Joyce felt something crack in her chest. "That's where the money's been going," Jonathan continued. "Not frivolous spending, not irresponsibility. We've been paying for my mother to live, and His voice broke. "I couldn't tell you. I couldn't admit to my wife's mother that I was failing at the most basic thing a man is supposed to do, provide for his family." "Jonathan," Joyce whispered, "why didn't you say something?" "Pride," he said simply. "Shame. Fear that you'd think I was weak, that you'd think Rebecca had married the wrong man." He laughed bitterly. "Which you probably do think anyway." "I don't." "You do. I see it in your face every time you look at me. The disappointment, the judgment. My daughter could have done better." He met her eyes. "And you're right. She could have, but she chose me anyway, and I've been trying so hard to prove I'm worthy of that choice. And failing. Every single month, failing." Rebecca reached for his hand. "The Christmas thing," Jonathan continued. That wasn't about you, Joyce. It was about me. I couldn't sit at a holiday table and pretend everything was fine while my mother is dying and I'm living in a house your money pays for. I couldn't watch you play with Emma and Mason and know that I'm the reason they might not have a home next month. It was too much. I needed one day where I didn't have to face my own inadequacy. Silence filled the room. Then Rebecca spoke, her voice quiet but steady. Mom, I need to say something. And I need you to listen. Really listen. Joyce nodded. I have postpartum depression. I've had it since Mason was born. Severe postpartum depression. There were days, her voice cracked. There were days I thought about hurting myself. I thought about leaving. Just getting in the car and driving and never coming back. Because I couldn't do it. I couldn't be the mother Emma and Mason needed. I couldn't be the wife Jonathan needed. I couldn't be the daughter you needed. I was drowning, Mom, and I couldn't tell you. Why? Joyce whispered. Why couldn't you tell me? Because you're perfect. Rebecca's tears flowed freely now. You were the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect teacher. Everyone loves Joyce Powell. How do I tell you that I'm falling apart? That I can't handle 2 kids when you handled one so beautifully? That I'm failing at the thing you made look effortless? It wasn't effortless, but it looked like it was. You never complained, never broke down, never lost your temper. You were always patient, always kind, always there. And I can't be that. I'm not that. I yell at Emma for spilling juice. I hide in the bathroom to cry. I resent Mason for needing me. I'm a terrible mother, and I couldn't let you see that because I'd take over. Joyce finished, understanding flooding through her. I'd swoop in and fix everything, and you'd never figure out how to do it yourself. Yes, Rebecca looked at her mother, really looked at her, maybe for the first time in years. I didn't need you to solve it, Mom. I needed you to see me struggling and love me anyway, without trying to make it better, without comparing me to yourself. Just love me. The messy, imperfect, failing at everything me. Joyce felt tears streaming down her face. But I didn't know how to let you struggle, she said. After your father died, helping you became my purpose. If I couldn't fix your problems, then what good was I? You were my mother, Rebecca said. That's enough. That's always been enough. But you never believed it. Jonathan stood up suddenly, running his hands through his hair. I need to say something else. Something I should have said months ago. He looked at Joyce. The Christmas exclusion. That was my idea, not Rebecca's. Rebecca turned to him, shocked. Jonathan? No, I need to say this. He faced Joyce fully. Rebecca wanted you there. She told me we should include you. She said it was wrong to exclude her mother on Christmas. But I pushed. I insisted. I told her that if she really loved me, she'd prioritize our family unit. Our mental health. I used all the right therapy language to make it sound reasonable. His voice dropped. But the truth is, I couldn't face you. I couldn't sit across from you knowing I'd failed, knowing I was supposed to be taking care of your daughter, and instead she was living off her mother's retirement money while my mother died because I couldn't save her either. He sat back down, his face in his hands. I'm 34 years old and I can't keep anyone safe. Not my wife, not my kids, not my mother. And you were just there. Constant reminder of everything I should be and wasn't. And I made it worse, Rebecca added quietly, because I didn't tell you about Jonathan's mother. I didn't tell you about my depression. I just took your money and pushed you away and let you think we were ungrateful, when really we were just broken. We're so broken, Mom, and we didn't want you to see. Joyce looked at these 2 people, her daughter and son-in-law, and saw them clearly for the first time. Not villains, not ungrateful users, just 2 humans, struggling under impossible weight, trying to survive. How long does your mother have? Joyce asked Jonathan quietly. 6 months, maybe less. And the therapy? She looked at Rebecca. Is it helping? Some days. Other days I feel like I'm just treading water. Joyce stood up and walked to her desk. She pulled out the billing statement. This came to my house by mistake, she said, handing it to Rebecca. I shouldn't have opened it. I'm sorry, but I'm glad I did, because it helped me understand. Rebecca stared at the paper, her face paling. I didn't want you to know, she whispered. I know, but I should have. Joyce sat back down. Rebecca, I failed you, not by cutting off the money, but by making you feel like you couldn't tell me when you were drowning, by being so perfect that you couldn't be real with me, by using my help to control you instead of empower you. Mom, let me finish. I gave you that money for the wrong reasons, not because you needed it, though you did, but because I needed to feel necessary. After your father died, I didn't know how to be Joyce Powell anymore. I only knew how to be David's wife and your mother. And when David was gone, I clung to being your mother so hard I couldn't see I was suffocating you. Joyce took a shaky breath. But you were right. I can't be your reason to live. That's not fair to either of us. And you were also right that I made you feel inadequate, not intentionally, but impact matters more than intention. So what do we do now? Rebecca asked. Because, Mom, we can't afford a new place. We've looked. Everything requires income verification we don't have, credit we don't have, deposit money we don't have. In 30 days, we're going to be homeless. The weight of those words settled over all of them. I don't want that, Joyce said. I never wanted that. I just wanted to feel valued, Jonathan finished. Not just financially, emotionally. Yes, they sat in silence. What if, Rebecca said slowly, we tried again, different this time, with honesty, with boundaries, with real relationship instead of just transactions? I don't know if I can trust you, Joyce admitted. Not right away. And I don't know if I can accept help without feeling controlled, Rebecca said. But maybe we could try? With help? You need a mediator, Ruth said the next morning, December 31st. Professional. Someone who can help you navigate this without more damage. She handed Joyce a business card. Dr. Sarah Kim, family mediator and therapist. I know her from the community center. She's good, fair. She doesn't let people get away with manipulation, but she also understands that family relationships are complicated. Joyce looked at the card. You think we can fix this? I think you can find a way forward. Whether that's together or apart, I don't know, but you need a neutral third party to help figure it out. That evening, Joyce sent a text to Rebecca. Joyce, I found a family mediator. If you and Jonathan are willing to try, I am too, but with professional help. We can't do this alone. The response came 10 minutes later. Rebecca, yes, please. We'll try anything. January 2nd, Joyce met with Dr. Sarah Kim in a small, comfortable office that smelled like lavender and looked nothing like a therapist's office from TV. No leather couch, just chairs arranged in a circle. Tell me what you want from this process, Dr. Kim said after introductions. I want my daughter back, Joyce said. The real relationship, not one where I'm just a checkbook. And I'm guessing she wants the same thing. But Joyce, I need to ask you something hard. Are you prepared to acknowledge your part in this dysfunction? Yes, Joyce said, surprising herself with how quickly the answer came. I used money to control. I used helping to feel needed. I made my daughters struggle about me. Good. That's a start. Now, are you prepared to hear Rebecca's truth? Even if it hurts? Even if it makes you look at yourself differently? Joyce thought about the billing statement, the postpartum depression, the anxiety, all the pain Rebecca had been carrying alone because Joyce had made it unsafe to share. Yes, she said. I'm ready. Dr. Kim smiled. Then we have something to work with. Family healing isn't about who was right or wrong. It's about understanding how everyone got hurt and choosing whether to hurt each other less going forward. Are you in? Joyce thought about David, about the promises they'd made, about the kind of mother she wanted to be versus the kind she'd become. I'm in, she said. Dr. Kim scheduled the first joint session for January 18th. 3 weeks, she said. That gives everyone time to think about what they really want, what they're willing to give up to get it, and what boundaries they need to feel safe. Joyce left the office feeling something she hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Small, fragile, but real. January 18th arrived gray and cold. Joyce sat in her car outside Dr. Kim's office for 10 minutes, her hands gripping the steering wheel, watching Rebecca and Jonathan pull into the parking lot. They all walked in separately, sat in the circle of chairs like strangers at a support group. Dr. Kim entered with 3 glasses of water and a box of tissues. She set them in the center like weapons everyone might need. "Thank you all for coming," she began, settling into her chair. "Before we start, I want to establish ground rules. First, we're not here to determine who's right or wrong. We're here to understand how everyone's been hurt and to find a path forward, whether that's together or apart. Second, everyone gets to speak without interruption. Third, you can call a break anytime you need one. This will be hard. That's okay. Hard doesn't mean wrong." She looked at each of them. "Who wants to start?" Silence stretched for nearly a minute. Then Rebecca raised her hand slightly, like a student asking permission. "I will," she said quietly. Dr. Kim nodded. "Joyce, Jonathan, your job right now is only to listen, not to respond, not to defend, just to hear. Can you do that?" They both nodded. Rebecca took a shaky breath. "Mom, I love you. I need you to know that first. Everything I'm about to say comes from a place of love, not hate." She twisted her hands in her lap. "But you've spent my entire life making me feel like I'm never quite enough. Not mean enough, not intentionally, but it's always there. The subtle comparisons. When I was raising you, I never needed help. When I was your age, I managed just fine. Every story, every piece of advice, every helpful suggestion has this undertone that says, I did it better." Joyce opened her mouth, but Dr. Kim held up a hand. Rebecca continued, tears starting to fall. "When Emma was born, I was terrified. I didn't know what I was doing. She cried all the time, and I couldn't figure out why. And you'd come over and pick her up, and she'd stop crying immediately, and you'd smile and say, 'Babies just need to be held a certain way.' Like it was so easy. Like I was defective for not knowing instinctively what you knew." "I was trying to help," Joyce started. "I know," Rebecca said. "That's what makes it so hard. You were trying to help. But Mom, I needed you to say, this is so hard. You're doing your best. It's okay to struggle. Instead, you demonstrated how you would do it better. And every time I felt smaller, less capable, more like a failure." She wiped her eyes roughly. "And then Mason came and everything got worse. The postpartum depression hit like a truck. I'd wake up and wish I hadn't. I'd look at my beautiful children and feel nothing. Or worse than nothing, resentment. And I couldn't tell you because you'd never struggled like that. You'd never been anything less than the perfect mother. How do I admit to perfect Joyce Powell that I'm drowning? That some days I fantasize about getting in my car and driving until I disappear?" Joyce's hand flew to her mouth, a sob catching in her throat. "I started therapy in April, 8 months ago. I didn't tell you because I knew you'd want to fix it. You'd want to come stay with us, take over with the kids, show me how to do it right. And I'd disappear completely. I'd just be the broken daughter who couldn't handle what you made look easy." Rebecca's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "The money made it worse. Every dollar you gave made me feel more like a child, more incompetent. But I couldn't say no because we needed it desperately. So I took your money and hated myself for it. Took your help and pulled away emotionally because it was the only power I had left. And I know that hurt you. I know you felt used. But Mom, I was trying to survive. I was trying to figure out how to be an adult, a mother, a person, while you kept treating me like your project." She met Joyce's eyes directly. "I'm sorry I took your money without explaining what was happening. I'm sorry I excluded you from Christmas. But I'm not sorry for needing space. I'm not sorry for trying to establish boundaries, even if I did it badly. Dr. Kim turned to Jonathan. Your turn. Jonathan leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and spoke to the floor. Joyce, I've been angry at you for 2 years, angry and ashamed, because you represented everything I'm not. Stable, financially secure, capable. Every time you helped us, it was a reminder that I'm failing as a husband and father, that I can't provide the basic necessities. He finally looked up. My mother has 6 months to live, maybe less now. Stage 3 lung cancer, no insurance. Treatment costs that would bury us if we let them. I've been paying $3,000 a month for her care. $3,000 every month, on top of everything else. That's where your money's been going, not vacations or luxuries. Keeping my mother alive. His voice cracked. I couldn't tell you, because what kind of man can't take care of both his mother and his family? What kind of husband makes his wife beg from her mother while his own mother dies because the money's running out? I'm 34 years old, and I've failed at the most fundamental thing a man is supposed to do. Jonathan, Rebecca reached for his hand, but he pulled away. No, I need to say this. Joyce, the Christmas exclusion was my idea, not Rebecca's. She wanted you there. She said it was wrong to shut you out. But I couldn't face you. I couldn't sit at your table and pretend I hadn't been taking money meant for your retirement to pay for hospice care. I couldn't watch you play with Emma and Mason knowing that next month I might not be able to keep a roof over their heads. He rubbed his face hard. I blamed you for making me feel inadequate. But you didn't make me feel that way. I was already there. You just reflected back what I already believed about myself. That I'm not enough. That I'm failing everyone I love. Silence filled the room, heavy and thick. Dr. Kim looked at Joyce. Your turn, and before you speak, I want you to think about something. Not what you intended, but what they experienced. Impact over intention. Can you do that? Joyce nodded slowly. She'd been preparing for this moment for 3 weeks, practicing in her head. But now, hearing Rebecca and Jonathan's pain spoken aloud, all her prepared words felt inadequate. I need to tell you something I've never told anyone except your father, Joyce began, her voice trembling. Something about my own mother. Rebecca looked up, surprised. My mother, your grandmother Clara, she died when you were 2, so you don't remember her. What you don't know is that she controlled everything with money. Everything. She'd give my father his allowance every week and shame him if he asked for more. She paid for my college, but held it over my head for years. I bought your education. You owe me. When your father and I got engaged, she threatened to cut me off because she didn't approve. Said she'd invested too much to let me throw it away on a poor man. Joyce's hands were shaking now. I swore I would never be like her. I would never use money to control. I would help my family freely, generously, without strings. She laughed bitterly. But I did the exact same thing, didn't I? Different method, same result. My mother used money to dominate. I used money to maintain connection. But it's still control. Still making people dependent. Still using resources to keep people close who might otherwise leave. She looked at Rebecca. After your father died, I was lost. Completely lost. For 40 years, I was David's wife. For 32 years, I was Rebecca's mother. When David died, I panicked. If you didn't need me anymore, who was I? What was my purpose? So when you needed help, I grabbed onto it. I made myself indispensable. Because if you couldn't survive without me, I'd never have to face being alone. Tears streamed down Joyce's face. I gave you money not just to help, but to keep you needing me. I gave advice not just to guide, but to prove I was still necessary. I showed up unannounced, not just to see the grandchildren, but to maintain my role as the essential grandmother. And when you pulled away, when you set boundaries, I felt like I was dying. Because without being needed, I didn't know who Joyce Powell was. She turned to Jonathan. And you, Jonathan, I am so sorry. I did make you feel inadequate. Not intentionally, but I see it now. Every time I helped, I undermined your role as provider. Every dollar I gave said you can't do this yourself. I emasculated you in your own home in front of your own wife because I was so focused on helping Rebecca that I never considered what it was doing to you, to your marriage, to your sense of self. Jonathan's eyes were red, but he stayed silent. I should have asked what you needed instead of assuming. I should have offered to help with your mother's medical bills directly, taking that burden off you, instead of enabling a situation where you felt like you were choosing between your mother and your family. I should have seen you as a whole person, not just the man who married my daughter. Dr. Kim leaned forward. Joyce, that's a lot of awareness. What do you want now? Moving forward, what does a healthy relationship with Rebecca and Jonathan look like to you? Joyce thought for a long moment. I want to know my daughter, the real Rebecca, not the version I created in my head. I want to be a grandmother to Emma and Mason, but not at the expense of their parents' authority. And I want... She paused, voice breaking. I want to figure out who Joyce Powell is when she's not being someone's something. I want my own life, my own purpose, so that Rebecca can have hers. Dr. Kim stood and walked to a whiteboard. Okay, now we build. I'm going to ask each of you what you need, not want but need, to feel safe moving forward. Joyce, you first. Joyce thought carefully. I need honesty. If you're struggling, tell me. Don't hide it until you explode. I need boundaries that are clear and consistent, not moving targets. And I need... She hesitated. I need to not be the only solution, to not be the ATM you go to first. Dr. Kim wrote it down. Rebecca? I need space to fail without judgment. I need help to be offered, not imposed. I need to be able to say no thank you without it becoming a fight. And I need Mom to see me as an adult, not a child who needs constant supervision. Jonathan? I need to be treated with respect, not as the guy who married into the family, but as Rebecca's partner and Emma and Mason's father. My decisions need to matter. My struggles need to be acknowledged without shame, and I need help without humiliation. Dr. Kim stepped back, surveying the board. Here's what I'm seeing. Everyone wants connection, but the way you've been connecting has been toxic. So we need to rebuild from scratch. That means burning down the old system, the financial dependency, the unspoken expectations, the roles that don't fit anymore. Are you all willing to do that? 3 hesitant nods. Then here's my recommendation. This isn't a requirement. You can negotiate, but it's what I think gives you the best chance of healing. She wrote on the board. Financial reset. 1. Joyce terminates the lease as planned. 2. Joyce provides one final gift. $5,000 toward new housing. Security deposit plus first month. 3. No more monthly payments. 4. No more emergency funds on demand. 5. Educational 529 accounts for Emma and Mason. $10,000 each, managed separately. Boundaries. 1. No unannounced visits. 24-hour notice required. 2. Advice only when requested. 3. Sunday dinners 2 axiox month. Either party can cancel with 24 HR notice. No guilt. 4. Phone calls limited to 3 access week unless emergency. 5. Major parenting decisions belong to Rebecca and Jonathan Crisis Protocol. 1. True emergencies. Medical safety. Joyce maintains $3,000 emergency fund, accessed only by mutual agreement. 2. Financial struggles. Rebecca and Jonathan seek other resources first. Family, bank, social services. 3. Mental health crises. Professional help. Primary, family support secondary therapy. 1. Rebecca continues individual therapy. 2. Joyce begins individual therapy. 3. Family therapy sessions. 1x month for 6 months minimum. Dr. Kim set down the marker. This is hard. It means, Joyce, you step back and watch Rebecca struggle sometimes. It means, Rebecca and Jonathan, you manage on your own income even when it's scary. It means all of you accept that love doesn't mean rescue. Can you do that? Rebecca looked at Jonathan. He squeezed her hand. We can try, Rebecca said. Joyce took a deep breath. What about Jonathan's mother? The medical bills? Jonathan shook his head. That's my burden, not yours. But what if it wasn't a burden for me? What if... Joyce paused, choosing words carefully. What if I helped with 1 month of treatment? Not as a loan, not as control. Just as one grandmother to another, because no mother should have to die for lack of insurance. Jonathan's composure shattered. He put his face in his hands and sobbed, deep, wrenching sobs of relief and grief and exhaustion. Why would you do that? He finally asked. After everything? Because it's the right thing to do. Because it's not about you owing me. It's about humanity. Your mother deserves care, and I can help provide it. Once. This one time. No strings, no expectations, just compassion. Dr. Kim was smiling. That's the difference. Before, Joyce helped to create dependency. This is helping to relieve suffering without creating obligation. Do you see the distinction? They all nodded. Then we have an agreement. Everyone sign. Dr. Kim typed up the agreement on her laptop and printed 3 copies. They each signed, hands shaking, knowing this was both an ending and a beginning. As they stood to leave, Rebecca turned to Joyce. Mom, I'm sorry. For taking advantage. For not being honest. For pushing you away instead of communicating. I'm sorry too, baby. For suffocating you. For making you feel inadequate. For using money to control. Joyce opened her arms. Can we try again? Different this time? Rebecca stepped into the hug, and they held each other and cried. It wasn't fixed, but it was a start. The first Sunday dinner under the new arrangement was awkward. Rebecca had cooked, spaghetti with jarred sauce, nothing fancy, and Joyce had to physically stop herself from offering to help by redoing everything. Emma spilled juice on the carpet. Joyce watched Rebecca clean it up with paper towels instead of the proper cleaner. Her hands twitched, wanting to intervene. She didn't. When she got home, she called Ruth. That was the hardest thing I've ever done. What, sitting there while Rebecca cleaned up juice wrong? Yes, she used paper towels, Ruth. Paper towels on carpet. You're supposed to... Joyce, stop. What? Whose carpet is it? Rebecca's. And if she ruins it with paper towels, then she learns to use the right cleaner next time. Exactly. Your job isn't to prevent every mistake. It's to love her through the consequences. Joyce was quiet. I hate this. I know. Growth is uncomfortable. Keep going. You need a hobby, Ruth announced 2 weeks later, appearing at Joyce's door with pamphlets. Book club, pottery class, watercolor painting, volunteer tutoring. Pick 2. I don't have time for... You have 18 hours a day you used to spend worrying about Rebecca. Pick 2. Joyce chose watercolor painting on Wednesdays and volunteer tutoring on Thursdays. The first painting class was humiliating. Her trees looked drunk. Her sky looked like mud. The woman next to her, Dorothy Williams, 73, silver hair and a neat bun, leaned over and whispered, That's the ugliest sunset I've ever seen. Joyce laughed so hard she snorted. I'm Dorothy, and you're terrible at this. Joyce, and yes I am. Want to get coffee after and be terrible together? They did. And Joyce discovered Dorothy was a retired nurse with 3 grown children, 2 ex-husbands, and a filthy sense of humor. By the end of coffee, Joyce's face hurt from laughing. Same time next week? Dorothy asked. Absolutely. Dorothy introduced Joyce to Karen Foster, 61, who'd just moved to Phoenix from Chicago after her husband died. The 3 of them became the Wednesday artists, meeting for painting class, then coffee, then eventually dinner and movies and day trips to Sedona. For the first time in years, Joyce had friends who didn't know her as Rebecca's mother or David's wife. They knew her as Joyce, the woman who painted crooked trees and told funny stories about her teaching days and made them laugh until they cried. One night in March, Dorothy asked, Joyce, are you happy? Joyce thought about it. Yes, I actually am. Is that weird? Why would it be weird? Because my relationship with my daughter is still fragile. Because I have less money than I did a year ago. Because I'm 65 and starting over. Starting over is brave, Karen said. Most people your age just coast. You're building a whole new life. Joyce realized she was, and it felt good. May 3rd, 2:00 a.m. Joyce's phone rang. Mom, Rebecca's voice was thick with tears. It's Jonathan's mother. She passed. Tonight. Mom, he's falling apart. Joyce was dressed and in her car within 10 minutes. When she arrived at Rebecca's apartment, Jonathan was sitting on the couch, staring at nothing. Rebecca sat beside him, helpless and scared. Jonathan, Joyce said softly, sitting on his other side. I'm so sorry. He turned to her, and his face crumpled. I couldn't save her. I tried so hard. I spent everything. Did everything. And she still died. That's not how this works, honey. You gave her time, comfort, dignity. Those last 8 weeks after I helped with treatment, she got to see Emma and Mason, got to say her goodbyes. You gave her that gift. But she's gone. I know, and it's going to hurt for a long time. But you didn't fail her, Jonathan. You loved her. And love doesn't always mean we can stop the inevitable. Sometimes love just means we walk through the valley together. He leaned against Joyce and sobbed. She held him, this son-in-law she'd resented for so long, and just let him grieve. Rebecca watched, tears streaming down her face. Later, after Jonathan had cried himself to sleep on the couch, Rebecca and Joyce sat on the porch. Thank you for coming, Rebecca said. I didn't know what to do, how to help him. You're doing exactly right. You're being present. That's all anyone can do. I keep thinking, what if we'd spent that money on the house instead of treatment? What if we'd let him go into debt? What if... Rebecca, stop. There is no right answer when someone's dying. You made the choice that let him say goodbye with dignity. That matters. They sat in silence for a moment. Mom, I miss you, Rebecca said quietly. The real you. The mom who used to read me stories and make pancakes shaped like animals and laugh at stupid jokes. When did we lose that? When I tried too hard to be perfect instead of just being real. Can we have it back? The real relationship? Joyce took her daughter's hand. We're building it. Slowly. Carefully. But yes, I think we can. July 14th, Emma's 7th birthday party at the neighborhood park. Joyce arrived with a present, art supplies, not extravagant, and saw the gathering. Rebecca's friends from work, Jonathan's siblings she'd never met, kids running everywhere. And standing by the gift table, Jonathan's father, Frank Powell. He was a tall man, thin, with kind eyes and weathered hands. He approached Joyce nervously. Mrs. Powell, I'm Frank, Jonathan's father. I wanted to thank you for helping with Margaret's treatment those last weeks. It meant, his voice broke. It meant everything. I'm sorry for your loss, Frank. Jonathan says you're the reason he's keeping it together, that you've helped more than just financially, that you've been kind when you had every reason not to be. Joyce looked over at Jonathan, who was pushing Mason on a swing, his face still carrying grief, but also something lighter. He's a good man, Joyce said. Took me too long to see it. He thinks the world of Rebecca, and he's grateful, so grateful for your help. We all are. Before Joyce could respond, a small voice shouted, Grandma Joyce! Emma crashed into her legs, grinning up with a gap-toothed smile. Grandma, I made you something. She pulled Joyce toward a table covered in kids' artwork. Emma held up a crayon drawing, 2 stick figures holding hands, one tall, one small. Hearts everywhere. Text in wobbly letters, My Grandma Joyce is my best friend. Joyce's eyes filled with tears. Baby, this is beautiful. I'm going to put it in a frame, Emma announced. So it lasts forever. Rebecca appeared beside them, smiling. She worked on that for a week. Wouldn't let me help. Said it had to be perfect for you. Joyce knelt down to Emma's level. It's more than perfect, sweetheart. It's wonderful. Thank you. After cake and presents, while other parents packed up, Joyce and Rebecca worked side by side, stuffing trash into bags. Mom, I want to say something. Rebecca stopped, facing her mother. Thank you, not just for the money, though thank you for that too, but thank you for giving me space to grow up, for letting me struggle, for being there without taking over. It's been hard, Joyce admitted. There are still days I want to swoop in and fix everything. But you don't, and that means more than you know. Rebecca pulled something from her pocket, a check. This is the first payment, $500 toward the $88,000. It's going to take a while, but we're paying you back, all of it. Joyce looked at the check. Part of her wanted to refuse it, but she knew what it represented. Rebecca's autonomy, her dignity, her ability to stand on her own. Thank you, Joyce said, taking the check. I'll deposit it. They finished cleaning in comfortable silence. Then, Mom, Wednesday morning Emma and I were thinking, would you want to come to my painting class? She wants to learn watercolor from the best grandma artist. Joyce's heart swelled. I would love that. But honey, I'm terrible at watercolor. Even better. Then Emma can see that it's okay to be bad at something and still enjoy it. That's a lesson I'm still learning. From her very wise mother, Joyce said. Who learned it from her very brave mother? Rebecca replied. Joyce stood in the community center gallery, staring at her painting on the wall. Still not great. The perspective was off and the colors too muddy, but it was hers. And beside it, a placard. Local Artists Showcase, Joyce Powell. I'm so proud of you, Dorothy said, squeezing her arm. It's just a mediocre painting in a community center. It's you claiming space as an artist. That's huge. Ruth appeared with champagne in plastic cups. To Joyce Powell, who finally figured out she's allowed to be a person. They clinked glasses. Joyce's phone buzzed. Rebecca, Emma's recital tonight at 6. You're still coming, right? She's nervous and wants her Grandma Joyce. Joyce, wouldn't miss it. Rebecca, love you, Mom. Joyce, love you too, sweetheart. She put the phone away and looked at her painting again. Crooked trees, muddy sky, and all. It was imperfect. Just like her relationship with Rebecca. Just like her life. Just like her. And that was okay. More than okay. It was real. Karen raised her glass. What are you thinking about? Joyce smiled. I'm thinking that I spent 65 years being David's wife, Rebecca's mother, someone's something. And now I'm just Joyce. And it turns out, Joyce is pretty interesting. Joyce is very interesting, Dorothy corrected. Joyce is brave and funny and kind. Joyce is a good friend. Joyce matters just by being Joyce. Joyce also paints terrible trees, Karen added. They all laughed. That evening, Joyce sat in a folding chair in an elementary school auditorium, watching Emma sing in a children's choir. Rebecca sat beside her, Jonathan on her other side. Mason fidgeted in Rebecca's lap. When Emma's solo came, slightly off-key but full of confidence, Joyce felt tears prick her eyes. Rebecca reached over and squeezed her hand. No words needed. Just presence. Just love. Just family. After the recital, they all went for ice cream. Emma talked non-stop about the performance. Mason got chocolate everywhere. Jonathan told a funny story about work. Rebecca laughed. Really laughed, the way she used to when she was young. And Joyce just listened. Participated. Enjoyed. Not trying to fix. Not trying to improve. Not trying to prove her worth. Just being Grandma Joyce. Being Mom. Being herself. As they said goodbye in the parking lot, Emma hugged Joyce tight. Grandma, you know what? What, baby? You're my favorite person. Joyce's heart expanded. You're one of mine too, sweetheart. Driving home, Joyce thought about the journey, the pain, the loss, the rebuilding, the growth. Had it been worth it? The confrontation, the canceled lease, the hard conversations and harder boundaries. She thought about Rebecca, stronger now, more confident, genuinely thriving in therapy and work and motherhood. She thought about Jonathan, still grieving his mother, but lighter somehow, freer. She thought about herself, No longer Joyce Powell, desperate to be needed. Just Joyce Powell, learning who she was outside of everyone else's needs. Yes, it had been worth it. She'd learned the hardest lesson of all. Letting go isn't giving up. Setting boundaries isn't rejection. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back and let the people you love find their own way, even when it hurts, even when it's hard, even when every instinct screams to help. Joyce Powell pulled into her driveway. Her little house waited, warm with lamplight. Inside, her own life waited. Her art supplies, her books, her friends' phone numbers, her therapy homework, her Wednesday painting class, her Thursday tutoring, her own dreams finally given space to breathe. She was 66 years old and starting over. And for the first time in years, she couldn't wait to see what came next. Not because she was needed, but because she was alive. And that, it turned out, was enough.